Great Northwoods to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, the latest on a deadly shooting spree in Sabattis that left 3 people dead. Plus, we'll hear how President Trump's tariff war could impact people here in Maine. And we'll also hear how the town of Fairfield is combating forever chemicals that have polluted local water wells. Good morning, everyone. I'm Craig Colson. Those are just a few of the stories we'll have for you over the next hour. We'll also hear from Emma Smith, who will be celebrating Deep Dish Pizza Day by showing us how to make a deep dish pizza. That'll come up a little later on in the program. But first, we're going to kick things off with a check of that forecast. Pretty good news in that department. Looks like today will be a nice partly cloudy day. We'll see some sunshine and temperatures up near 50 degrees. Really starting to feel like spring on days like today. Looks like we might have a little precipitation as we head into Saturday as well. More later on in the day Saturday, not a washout by any means. For more on what we could expect, let's turn things over to meteorologist Devin Biggs.
All righty, Craig, thank you very much. Happy Friday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Northwoods Hearing Aid Center in Lincoln, Maine, providing quality hearing care while accepting most Medicare Advantage plans and private pay. Contact them today to schedule your free hearing test. All righty, here we go. That small craft advisory remains posted until about noon today as we're still watching for some active surf along the coast. On land, a little bit of fog developing this morning, not enough to warrant any advisories, but you might encounter some localized areas of dense fog at times. But otherwise, it is pretty quiet on land this morning. We've had some clouds passing through, maybe a little bit of rain further off towards the north earlier, but for now, we're looking rather quiet moving forward. Farther down toward the south, we are seeing this cold front. It's causing plenty of showers and thunderstorms to develop in many parts across the central and southern U.S. But otherwise, futurecasts moving forward, maybe a few sprinkles and flurries today. Will clear out for the most part later on tonight. More clouds on the way as we head towards Saturday morning. Some gusty winds on the way, reaching up to about 30 miles per hour at times. So winds will begin to calm down later on tonight. Maybe a few gusts tomorrow, getting up to around 15 miles per hour at times. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period, overall showing a partly cloudy sky. Again, a few sprinkles and flurries possible as temperatures warm into the 50s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig?
Looks like a nice day ahead. Thank you very much, Devin. We'll see you later on. Well, first this morning, Maine State Police have updated the investigation into a deadly shooting incident that occurred on the Lisbon-Sabattis town line on Wednesday. That's where 3 people were shot and killed, including the alleged shooter. State Police say it all happened Wednesday afternoon around 4 p.m. They say 29-year-old James Davis III of Sabattis had been with family members at his father's house in Sabattis during the day when he began acting erratically. They said he was armed with a pistol and an assault-type rifle, and family members called his mother to come get him because she might be able to calm him down. 47-year-old Christine Smith picked him up, but when they arrived at the intersection of King Street and Route 9 near the Lisbon-Sabattis town line, Davis allegedly shot his mother with a .357 revolver as she was driving. She was killed and the vehicle stopped on a nearby front lawn. Police say Davis then exited the vehicle with an AK-47 rifle in his hand, pointed it down the roadway into oncoming traffic and opened fire, hitting 53-year-old Catherine Williams of Sabattis. Her vehicle continued down the roadway and struck a house where Williams also died from her injuries. Davis also allegedly shot at 2 more vehicles, striking 2 more people, but they survived and are now being treated at a hospital. Davis then turned the rifle on himself and died at the scene. So far, law enforcement says they had no prior contact with Davis.
The Lisbon Police Department, we have never dealt with this individual. We don't have him in our system. This is the first interaction with this individual.
What we know from interviewing family members is that he was definitely in some type of mental health crisis that day. But in terms of some longer term medical issues involving mental health, they weren't indicating that that was present.
Colonel Ross says more firearms were recovered at Davis's mother's home, where Davis also lived. He had no driver's license, and police are not sure if there was any history of drug use. They say so far they have found no connections with Davis and all the victims who were shot in the roadway on Wednesday. Meanwhile, a man from Aroostook County is facing charges following an alleged robbery in Holton. 21-year-old Nicholas McGuire of Linnaeus was arrested earlier this week and charged with a robbery that occurred last month. According to the Holton Police Department, McGuire woke up two residents on Court Street and demanded money while also showing a weapon. It happened early in the morning of March 22nd. McGuire was brought to the Aroostook County Jail and is now being held on $1,000 bail. Police also arrested a juvenile in relation with that robbery. Two young children have been rescued from a terrible situation in Rumford. That's what authorities say. They say they were found living in a severely unsanitary and unsafe home on Pine Street. The children are ages 4 and 5 years old. After making the discovery, 33-year-old Alexander Taylor Kubush was arrested and charged with drug crimes and also endangering the welfare of a child. Police say they also found crack cocaine, fentanyl, methamphetamine, and other drugs in the home. The children were taken into custody by the Department of Health and Human Services. Two young dogs were also rescued from that home. A high-speed pursuit in Hancock County ended with a crash. Lieutenant Brian Archer with the Hancock County Sheriff's Office responded to a suspicious activity complaint in Blue Hill back on April 2nd. Archer says he encountered 25-year-old Logan LaJeunesse of Brooksville during a motor vehicle. He was driving a motor vehicle. Archer says he attempted to stop him to speak with him about the incident, but LaJeunesse led Archer on a brief high-speed chase along Union Street in Blue Hill. Archer says speeds reached in excess of 80 miles per hour, and at one point LaJeunesse lost control of the vehicle while trying to make it around a curve, veering off the road. He says the vehicle hit a rock, flipped into the air, and then landed on the driver's side with the roof coming to rest against a tree. LaJeunesse was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. He is now being charged with eluding an officer, driving to endanger, and also exceeding the posted speed limit by more than 30 miles per hour. Well, after the Trump administration rolled out a new tariff plan this week, there are now many questions about how and when Mainers will feel the impact. Our Alex Schley with that story.
Wednesday, President Donald Trump announced a sweeping tariff plan that includes many of the United States' most significant trading partners. University of Maine Business School professor Stefano Tijerina says the U.S. is one of the largest consumers of foreign products.
Our economy depends more than 70% on consumption, not on imports and exports.
Experts predict the automotive industry could be among the hardest hit by Trump's tariff plan.
When Trump says the thing is unfair, of course it's unfair because we used to have a self-contained auto industry and produced everything here and sold it here and the money stayed here.
Tijerina says industries won't be able to rebuild in the U.S. overnight.
We're in a capitalist system and you cannot force private sector to just relocate here, and to relocate that takes time, planning, investment, risk.
In the meantime, the increased costs are expected to be passed down to consumers. Owner of PJM Auto Repair, Jason Morse, says he has no choice but to raise prices.
You have to.
Why?
Because if not, I won't be in business very long.
Tijerina says Americans may face economic challenges in the coming years.
During the whole period when we relocate all this industry back to the U.S., many people will have to suffer.
But Tijerina says if companies fall in line with the Trump administration's plan and move manufacturing back to the U.S., then the U.S. economy could benefit years down the road.
That's his formula. We'll force people to produce their stuff here. Incomes will rise. It will cost you more, but your salaries will be better. It will cost you more, but your lifestyle will be better.
I'm Alex Schley reporting for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Meanwhile, Senator Susan Collins and a bipartisan group of Senate colleagues are now urging the Trump administration to reverse course on LIHEAP staffing cuts. The federally funded LIHEAP program helps 6.2 million low-income households and seniors on fixed incomes afford their energy bills, including those using propane, electricity, and heating oil. The statement says without that assistance, many Americans may not be able to afford their utility bills and could be vulnerable to extreme weather. In a letter to the Department of Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the senator said, quote, "Access to affordable home energy is a matter of health and safety for many low-income households, children, and seniors. To that end, we urge you to reverse course on any staffing or funding cuts that would jeopardize the distribution of those funds." The Holton Regional Hospital has announced it will be the latest to close its labor and delivery unit. According to a post shared to the hospital's Facebook page, the unit will be closed effective May 2nd. The post goes on to explain the reason for the closure, saying it's due to the fact it has seen such a steady decline in needed services, which makes it impossible to keep the unit open. The Holton OB/GYN physician's office will remain open and will continue to provide services for women's health care in the area. Mount Desert Island Hospital announced last week that it will close its labor and delivery unit effective on July 1st, citing dramatic declines in birth rates. Last night, dozens of community members and MDI hospital staff gathered at the Jessup Memorial Library in Bar Harbor to hear directly from hospital leadership about that decision. MDI Hospital is the island's sole healthcare system. A decade ago, annual deliveries averaged about 100 a year. According to hospital administration, only 32 babies were born in the hospital last year, and that number has dropped to just 9 births so far this year. According to MDI Hospital's CEO and president, Chrissy McGuire, Hancock County has the lowest birth rate per capita of any county in Maine. She says with such low volumes, maintaining the specialized skills required for safe obstetric care has become increasingly difficult.
Our biggest challenge in our decision process and the data is around a declining birth rate. And with declining birth rates, there's less pieces of the pie for skill, exposure, and expertise to be had.
We want a place that's close, that's safe for us to go. This is it, and it doesn't matter, right? Whether it's 2 or 2,000. But for one woman to not be able to access safe care is one too many to not be able to.
Union nurses at MDI Hospital started a petition to overturn the decision, which nursing staff says currently has over 1,000 signatures, 80% of which are from local residents. The hospital heard from many community members and staff during that public hearing last night. Many expressed concerns over the loss of obstetric care on the island, especially since the next closest labor and delivery unit is in Ellsworth. McGuire says while the department is still expected to close, they are actively working to ensure maternal health remains a top priority and will continue to provide emergency maternal care there on MDI. All right, the time now is 8:12. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, some Fairfield residents have struggled after PFAS forever chemicals were found in dozens of local water wells. We'll hear what the town is doing to help. But first, another check of that weather forecast. A nice day ahead today, partly cloudy with just a chance of sprinkles and flurries. The high temperatures will reach right around 50 degrees. Partly cloudy and breezy tonight with lows in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, we can expect a little rain and snow later on in the day on Saturday. Otherwise, not a bad day. Highs around 44. We'll be right back.
For the best LiftMaster openers at real prices, call PDQ Door first. Hi, I'm Dave from PDQ Door. For emergency service, routine maintenance, and tune-ups, make PDQ Door your first call. Learn more at pdqdoor.com, where we sell the best and service the rest.
Taking the time to savor Thomas's crunchy yet soft bagels.
Thanks, Tom.
It's Tom, actually.
Right, Tom.
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 You doing that on purpose?
Tam.
Tam.
How have we got to Tam?
Huzzah! A toast to breakfast.
When Paramount Paving wants to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Paramount Paving in Old Town provides expert paving, seal coating services to eastern and central Maine. Currently booking for the 2025 season. Call for a free estimate today.
John Brown first opened his own appliance store in Ellsworth in 1976. With his gift of storytelling, a strong work ethic, and a philosophy of putting others first, John and his wife and children saw the business prosper and grow. Today's third and fourth generation of family and their entire team continue to follow the example set by their grandparents and parents. Brown Appliance and Mattress, High Street, Ellsworth, a family tradition of quality, value, and customer service that always puts you first. Hi, I'm Dave from PDQ Door. For over 30 years, we've been delivering top-notch service to the state of Maine. We're proud to be your trusted and first choice for garage door repair and LiftMaster openings. Visit us online at pdqdoor.com, where we sell the best and service the rest.
The senator's child's been kidnapped.
We got 5 missing girls. Putting out the alert.
Alert is TV's most arresting show.
We're missing persons unit. Nobody is better at this than we are.
And you can watch it anytime.
You see something, shoot at it, don't miss. Got it, coach.
every Tuesday.
All hands on deck.
Delivers a new high-stakes case.
You good? Never better. I like the energy.
Alert MPU, all new Tuesdays at 9, 8 Central on Fox or anytime on Hulu.
Communities and law enforcement agencies around the state are remembering Maine State Police Detective Benjamin Campbell. He was killed in the line of duty 6 years ago yesterday when he was struck by a tire that came off a passing truck while he was assisting at the scene of a disabled vehicle on I-95 in Hamden. Campbell joined the Maine State Police in 2012. He is survived by his wife and son. State Police sent out a message yesterday saying he may be gone, but he will never be forgotten. The contamination of forever chemicals has become a growing problem in the town of Fairfield. Our Doug Banks spoke with the town manager there to learn more about how they're combating that problem.
The town of Fairfield is one of many Maine municipalities maneuvering through the consequences of an old farming practice.
The practice of spreading wastewater treatment plant sludge is what has contributed to the contamination in the town of Fairfield.
There are around 200 wells in Fairfield contaminated with PFAS. In 2021, the Department of Environmental Protection began sampling Maine's groundwater through a $25 million program. That work also included installing filters in private wells that exceeded 20 parts per trillion. However, Fluwelling says the town was alerted in 2023 that funds from the DEP's program will be dried up in a year and a half, and the costs for continuing investigations and upkeeping of filters could fall upon the town and its people.
It has led an awful lot of people to question what's happening in their backyard.
The town of Fairfield created its own PFAS committee in 2023. Recently, they've come out with a report addressing the town's PFAS problem and what steps should be taken moving forward.
There were a large number of recommendations that they made. Some of them can be done immediately. Some of them will be long-term projects.
An in-depth discussion of the PFAS committee's report, as well as recommendations on next steps, will take place during next week's town council meeting here at the Fairfield Community Center. For those who cannot attend the meeting in person, more information on that can be found on the Town of Fairfield's website. In Fairfield, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
In other news this morning, the recent layoffs at the federal government include the cutting of around 870 positions from the World Trade Center Health Program. That program provides medical care for people with conditions directly connected to the attacks of September 11th. Attorney Michael Barish, who represents more than 40,000 9/11 survivors and first responders, says it leaves survivors without a place to turn.
If you're a first responder or a civilian who lived or worked in Lower Manhattan after 9/11 and you have cancer and you call up for an appointment, there's no one there to answer the calls. There's no doctors to treat you. By eliminating the health program, people will die.
Well, there may be some good news out of Washington this morning, where officials say the staffing cuts may be reversed. That after hearing from a bipartisan outcry from concerned public leaders about that situation. Domestic violence support agencies, meanwhile, are among those who are being impacted by the latest round of federal funding cuts. On Tuesday, the Department of Health and Human Services announced a sweeping reduction in funding, which local nonprofit Partners for Peace says will drastically change how they operate.
Our ability to staff our helpline may be severely reduced. The ability to staff our shelter will be reduced, and the ability to be in our community providing advocacy in courthouses or in schools and the healthcare system will be drastically reduced, if not eliminated.
The HHS funding cuts affect the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Violence Prevention Branch, as well as the director of the Office of Family Violence Prevention. The executive director of Partners for Peace says that as they put more resources into dealing with the funding cuts, they lose valuable time that could be spent connecting domestic violence survivors with resources they need. Regardless, she says, if you do need access to their services, their helpline is always available day and night. The number is 1-800-863-9909, 1-800-863-9909. You can also find that on the Partners for Peace websites. All right, the time now is 8:19. Coming up after the break, officials are concerned that parts of the country that never flood could see some rising water levels today. We'll hear about the wicked weather across the country right after the break.
Get moving this spring with comfortable, functional footwear from Comfort Shoes and More. From tailored fittings to shoe modifications and custom orthotics, their team of experts are trained in podorthics and will help you find the perfect fit. From running to walking, casual or dress, you'll find today's top brands: Hoka, Brooks, Keen, Ariat, Merrill, and more. Don't let your feet hold you back from doing the things you love. Take the drive to Newport for a sit and fit to find your perfect fit. You and your feet will be glad you did.
16 counties in our state: Cumberland and Franklin, Piscataqua, Kennebec, Oxford and Muskegon. 2, 3, 4. Water, Washington, New York, Lincoln, Knox, and Hancock, Saginaw, and Somerset, Aroostook, and Penobscot.
Family owned and operating in the Bangor area for more than 10 years. Crosby's Welding is here to help you. We specialize in steel, stainless steel, and aluminum welding and fabrication. We serve many of the local industries from Maine lobstermen to the commercial trucking industry and everything in between. Fully mobile on-site construction services right down to custom signs and fire pits. Fast, friendly, reliable service. Give us a call today for a free estimate, 974-7815.
25 words or less.
Do you have an inner voice that you channel?
Yes, there is my inner white girl, Olivia, who loves you so much, Marianne. And then there's my inner black girl, Olandra.
How does she feel about me?
You doing what you can.
Where celebrities come to play.
I, Tarzan, you,
Jane.
boom!
You said that like you've said that before.
Look, what my wife and I do is our business.
Every weekday.
Weekdays at 9 on Fox 22.
This morning, more than 30 million Americans are under a flood watch after deadly tornadoes, and now up to 15 inches of rain is possible in some areas. ABC's Andrew Dimpert has the latest.
Overnight, millions at risk of historic flooding as deadly storms stall over parts of the South, just beginning to dig out from devastating tornadoes. More than 8 inches of rain could fall in parts of Kentucky and Missouri through tomorrow. Officials saying flooding is likely in places that have never flooded before. The rain pouring down in Tennessee after more than a dozen water rescues in Nashville. Now, more flash flooding is expected.
Continued tornado warnings, there's continued flooding, and there's continued danger for Tennesseans. Don't let your guard down.
At least 7 people were found dead after tornadoes tore through the South and Midwest, 5 of those victims in Tennessee. And about 45 miles outside of Memphis, a man and his daughter were killed as a tornado struck their home. And in the city of Selmer, Tennessee, drone video showing the path of destruction. Farther west, friends Connor and Hunter lucky to be alive after their truck got stuck in Lake City, Arkansas. Connor holding onto a pole as a monster tornado tore through the area.
The only thing I could do is just hold on to the pole and pray for the best.
I got up one time trying to run, and I couldn't. It almost sucked me up. I really thought I was going to die.
Not far away, a pickup truck and a pile of debris are all that remain of an auto body shop. The owner and his wife were trapped beneath that rubble for 3 hours. Authorities in Lake City say, given the level of devastation, it's a miracle nobody was killed. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Boy, so many people have been dealing with that horrible weather lately. Here in our neck of the woods, nothing to really complain about. Looks like a pretty nice day ahead. Let's turn things back over to Devin for a full look at that weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Northwoods Hearing Aid Center in Lincoln, Maine, providing quality hearing care while accepting most Medicare Advantage plans and private pay. Contact them today to schedule your free hearing test. Already, small crowd advisories remain posted until about the noon time frame today as we're watching for some active surf along the coast. And so far, it's still rather active out there at around 4 feet, according to the buoys. Anywhere you see these lighter colors indicating some higher surf. Farther out towards sea, around 8 to 9 feet being reported out there this morning. Meanwhile, some areas waking up to a little bit of dense fog this morning, pretty much from Millinocket to sometimes Bangor and further off towards the south and west. We'll see that fog tapering off later on today. On land, just some clouds developing, maybe a few rain showers earlier during the period, but overall we're looking pretty quiet as we head towards the morning period today. Zooming things out, there's that cold front right there that's stretching all the way down toward the south into parts of Texas and tracking towards the north and east. Places like parts of Kentucky and even farther off to the north and east and south and west of that, dealing with some showers and thunderstorms this morning, kind of moving over the same area. So some flooding concerns are definitely existing. But for us, not looking too bad. Some sprinkles, maybe a few flurries in a few spots today. Coming up tonight, we clear out for a while overall with a partly cloudy sky. As we head towards your Saturday, some more clouds begin to move in with another system that begins to approach as we head towards Saturday evening, possibly starting as a little bit of rain and snow, switching over to a wintry mix for a bit, and eventually over to all rain as temperatures begin to rise. So here's what this looks like. Maybe a little bit of rain and snow early. There's that wintry mix of rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. Thankfully not lasting long. Maybe some more rain than anything else as we head towards early Sunday morning with more warm air moving in. Now, this whole thing continues through Sunday as normal rainfall, but then by Sunday evening overall, we will see this beginning to clear up, and even by your Monday, clouds break up to reveal a lot more sunshine. Overall for today, we have lower 50s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles, and a few flurries can't be ruled out, and the northwest wind getting up to around 30 miles per hour. Tonight, upper 20s, partly cloudy and breezy, northwest wind getting up to around 20 miles per hour. Tomorrow, it's Saturday, middle 40s, rain and snow showers possible late with that south wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Alrighty, let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Northwoods Hearing Aid Center in Lincoln, Maine, showing some rain showers on Sunday with highs in the low 50s, partly cloudy Monday with highs in the upper 40s and lower 40s then for your Tuesday under a mostly cloudy sky.
All across our state, American-made clean energy has created over 2,400 good-paying jobs while lowering energy costs for Mainers. Farmers across the state are earning millions in income through long-term land leases from clean energy projects. Homegrown power from wind and solar are driving American energy dominance and powering our future. Maine wins with clean energy. Call Senator Collins and thank her for supporting an all-of-the-above energy strategy that creates jobs in our state.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
Your favorite restaurants for half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Lakeshore Restaurant, 16 Crockett Road, Dexter, has a menu with a wide selection of fried seafood, lobster, burgers, sandwiches, pizza, and more. Try our ice cream or a milkshake. Dine inside or go to our takeout window and sit outside and enjoy the view.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
Ugh, I need new wipers. RockAuto.com. That was easy. That was fast.
All the parts your car will ever need, Rock Auto.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert, doing everything while you do your thing. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
This morning, the U.S. stock market in a free fall after President Trump's announcement of sweeping tariffs this week. President Trump and his team continue to brush off concerns as J.P. Morgan now says there's a 60% chance of a recession. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington with the potential impact on families at home.
more tariffs could be on the way. President Trump telling reporters on Air Force One they're preparing to take more action on global trade, including imported semiconductors and pharmaceuticals.
Does that mean chips and pharma tariffs are not on the table?
Starting very soon.
The president's comments come as the stock market tanks, losing more than $3 trillion in value Thursday. Some of the nation's largest companies taking a hit, along with millions of Americans' 401ks. President Trump brushing off concerns.
I think it's going very well.
Claiming those taxes on imported products will bring manufacturing back to the U.S. But economists warn it's going to cost everyone more. Analysts saying these new tariffs could cost an average American family of four up to $7,200 a year.
That tax has to be borne by somebody, and history suggests that it's going to be the American consumer.
This appliance store in Norwood, Massachusetts, now trying to navigate the additional cost.
If there are increases in price, they'll see if the manufacturer can absorb some of them too. Really just to keep the cost down for the consumer.
But other business owners say they'll have no choice but to pass the cost on to consumers.
If you had to absorb more of the tariff and not pass it on to consumers, could you stay in business?
No, I would get out of business. There is no way I can absorb this kind of cost.
The president also laying out a timetable saying it could take several years to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., but he did not explain what would happen to alleviate the pain of higher prices in the interim. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration threatens to pull federal funds from public schools that still have impermissible diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The U.S. Education Department sent out a notice on Thursday warning that Title I funding could be cut if schools fail to comply with its perspective on DEI programs. School and state officials must sign a certification letter and return it within 10 days to prove they are complying with the department's standards. The memo did not go into detail about what it is considering a proper DEI program. The National Security Agency director has reportedly been fired. A report says Air Force General Timothy Howe was fired on Thursday. Howe was the head of Cyber Command and the NSA director. Reports say Deputy NSA Director Wendy Noble was also fired on Thursday. The White House National Security Council has yet to comment on that situation. A former heart surgeon and TV host is confirmed as the new head of the Medicare and Medicaid agency. The Senate approved Dr. Mehmet Oz to lead Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services with a 53-45 vote on Thursday. The former Pennsylvania Senate candidate will be in charge of insurance programs and oversee coverage from the Medicare, Medicaid, or the Affordable Care Act. Oz has yet to announce his plans for the agency, such as potential cuts to government-funded programs. Well, you may remember the notorious case of Pamela Smart, the New Hampshire teacher who paid a student to kill her husband back in 1990. She's now spending life in prison for her role in that murder. And now an Ohio teacher is accused of that same kind of murder-for-hire plot. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has more.
A substitute teacher in Columbus, Ohio, faces serious charges. Police say she tried to pay one of her students to shoot and kill her husband.
This particular teacher was attempting to groom this young person into committing murder.
Authorities say 44-year-old Stephanie Demetrius offered the teenager $2,000, allegedly paying a $250 down payment, texting the boy that her husband worked from home and providing times when their 4 kids wouldn't be there. But the alleged plot was foiled when the boy's mom saw details in his phone and called police.
We're unsure of the specific reason as to why this teacher chose this particular student. This was a situation where the parent was able to capture things inside of this young person's phone to alert authorities.
Investigators claim to have a recorded phone call where the would-be teenage hitman asks if the neighbors would hear the gunfire. Demetrius allegedly responding, "They don't care." In the past, she was accused of trying to stab her husband, set the home on fire, and run him over. In this case, she denies the allegations, questioning the entire story during her first court appearance.
Who is the juvenile involved in this case?
Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
All right, coming up on the second half of the newscast, Seth MacFarlane and Liam Neeson are some of the names working on the remake of the Naked Gun film. We'll hear all about that coming up in the Showbiz segment. And later on, Emma Smith will teach us how to make a deep dish pizza. It looks really delicious, too. Those stories and more coming up on Good Morning Maine.
It's Ram Truck Month at Quirk in Bangor.
Save $11,000 on the powerful Ram 1500 Tradesman. Strength, style, and serious savings. It's your Ram. Find it at Quirk in Bangor and Belfast.
Ye Olde General, located in Carmel, has everything you could ever need. Whether it be kerosene, regular or ethanol-free gasoline, wood pellets, a fresh-cooked pizza, or fried food, they've got you covered. Looking to get a stiff drink after work? Ye Olde General is an agency liquor store with a great selection of alcohol. Ye Olde General can help with your next home project, carrying carpentry supplies from hammers and nails to specialty nuts and bolts. They have what you need to get the job done. Stop by Ye Olde General today. If you don't think they'll have it, they probably do.
Don't miss the Quirk Subaru A Lot to Love event. Love all the trusted 2025 Subaru Crosstrek has to offer. Buy with 3.9% financing or lease for just $315 per month. It's your Subaru. Find it at Quirk.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Friday, April 4th, 2025. It's also National Picky Eaters Day. This is really a holiday for all the parents out there who try their best each day to get their children to eat right. A recent survey of 2,000 parents found that the average parent spends up to 67 hours a year negotiating with picky eaters. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? National Picky Eaters Day celebrates the small victories, including when a child actually tries something new and likes it. All right, and this is also a good time to thank our boss, General Manager Mike Palmer, who brought in donuts today. Nobody was picky about eating those, so thank you, boss, for that. We've got a good boss. All right, on this day in history, back in 1818, the U.S. Congress released a U.S. flag that featured 20 stars and 13 red stripes, an early version of the American flag. In 1841, on this date, President William Henry Harrison succumbed to pneumonia just 1 month after his inauguration. He became the first U.S. president to die while in office. In 1968, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed while standing on a motel balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. His assassination triggered a wave of rioting across the U.S. in which 43 people were killed and more than 3,000 were injured. His assassin, James Earl Ray, died 2 years later while in prison. In 1973, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center officially opened in New York on this date. And in 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded Microsoft in Albuquerque, New Mexico. For birthdays today, they include actor Robert Downey Jr., who is 60 years old today. Music powerhouse Clive Davis is 93, and actress Natasha Lyonne turns 46 years old today. Happy birthday to them, and we'd like to wish you a happy birthday as well if today is your birthday. Hopefully you have a great day. Certainly going to be some pretty nice weather for it. A nice partly cloudy day ahead today. We'll see some sunshine and temperatures really in the mild range. For more on that, let's turn things back over to Devin.
All righty, Craig, thank you very much. Happy Friday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Northwoods Hearing Aid Center in Lincoln, Maine, providing quality hearing care while accepting most Medicare Advantage plans and private pay. Contact them today to schedule your free hearing test. All righty, here we go. That small craft advisory remains posted until about noon today, as we're still watching for some active surf along the coast. On land, a little bit of fog developing this morning, not enough to warrant any advisories, but you might encounter some localized areas of dense fog at times. But otherwise, it is pretty quiet on land this morning. We've had some clouds passing through, maybe a little bit of rain farther off towards the north earlier, but for now, we're looking rather quiet moving forward. Farther down toward the south, we are seeing this cold front. It's causing plenty of showers and thunderstorms to develop in many parts across the central and southern U.S. But otherwise, futurecasts moving forward, maybe a few sprinkles and flurries today. Will clear out for the most part later on tonight. More clouds on the way as we head towards Saturday morning. Some gusty winds on the way, reaching up to about 30 miles per hour at times. The winds will begin to calm down later on tonight. Maybe a few gusts tomorrow, getting up to around 15 miles per hour at times. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period, overall showing a partly cloudy sky. Again, a few sprinkles and flurries possible as temperatures warm into the 50s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig?
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Devin. Now for the latest on what's happening in Hollywood, here's ABC's Melissa Adon.
Who are you?
Frank Drebin, Police Squad.
the new version.
Liam Neeson takes over from the late Leslie Nielsen as the star of the upcoming Naked Gun film, which we're getting our first look at in a new trailer. Pamela Anderson and Paul Walter Hauser are also on the case, with Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane producing. The Naked Gun hits theaters August 1st.
You came here to heal. This is going to be a wonderful journey.
Hulu has set a release date for the next season of 9 Perfect Strangers. On May 21st, fans can see Nicole Kidman return as a mysterious guru hosting a wellness retreat in Austria, where not all is as it seems. Henry Golding and Christine Baranski also star.
Most brains see a pattern that's familiar. My brain doesn't work that way.
Meanwhile, Ben Affleck is returning as The Accountant. A sequel to the 2016 action film is set to release later this month, with John Bernthal also starring. And happy birthday to Robert Downey Jr., the former Iron Man and soon-to-be Dr. Doom, turned 60 today. And that's what's happening in Hollywood. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Now, tomorrow is National Deep Dish Pizza Day, so we stopped by Uno Pizzeria in Bangor to learn how to make one. We'll have that story and more right after the break.
Is your driveway in distress? Dirt yard dragging you down? Call Paramount Paving, Penobscot County's most trusted name in driveways. With more than 1,000 jobs installed and a 4.5 rating on Google, it's easy to see why. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount. Call today for your free estimate.
Blind spot that's never out of sight. How it should be. The Hyundai Tucson.
Right now, get 3.99% APR for 72 months on the Hyundai Tucson. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Hi, I'm Tony Hafford from TC Hafford Basement Systems, the all things basement-y company. Basement waterproofing, basement structural repair, humidity and mold control, and nasty crawl spaces too. Since 1991, over 15,000 Maine homeowners have trusted TC Hafford Basement Systems to fix their basements. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basement-y.
Is your driveway in distress? Dirt yard dragging you down? Call Paramount Paving, Penobscot County's most trusted name in driveways. With more than 1,000 jobs installed and a 4.5 rating on Google, it's easy to see why. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount. Call today for your free estimate.
Before the Masters, the biggest names in golf play here.
Oh, yes!
Live Golf Miami, Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Saturday is National Deep Dish Pizza Day, and a local restaurant chain is celebrating by offering a step-by-step class to learn how you can make your own pie. Emma Smith and chief photographer Dave Simpson stopped by Uno Pizzeria in Bangor to learn all about it.
Uno's is the inventor of deep dish pizza.
Yeah.
Back in 1943, this pizza was created back in Chicago, and it was so popular that it eventually broadened itself across the entire country.
So I didn't realize that's where Uno's got their start. It is a deep dish pizza. And believe it or not, I've never had, that's a secret. I have not had a deep dish pizza, and I'm spilling it right here. So we're about to make deep dish pizza, right? And
correct.
We're gonna start from scratch.
Scratch, like we do right here in the restaurant. We make all of our doughs right here. We make our thin crust dough, our deep dish dough, and our Detroit style crust all in-house every single day.
Let's get into it.
And we're gonna add our water first.
Okay, I'll just take your lead.
Yeah, so we need our yeast first.
Okay.
This is what helps the dough rise. That's that one, yeah?
Is it warm water?
It is warm water, it's 120 degrees.
Okay.
So we're gonna just sprinkle that right in.
Whoa,
put that one off to the side.
Exactly 120, oh, so
yeah.
You guys really have it down, okay.
No, it doesn't need to be too mixed, we're just gonna whisk it in there together to get it kind of integrated with the water. So next we're gonna add our salt and our sugar.
Salt. Sugar.
And then we're going to add our oil also. So we're going to whisk this one up too. Again, doesn't need to be too whisked up. Just going to get all those ingredients incorporated. It takes both these bowls of dough right here, and bowls of dough mix right here, or flour, I should say, all-purpose flour.
Okay.
So we can just add those right in. So we just need to mix this a little bit together with the whisk. Just kind of get all incorporated in, and we're going to splash stuff around, as you can see.
Can I do it with my hands?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I'm going to do it with my hands too, because it's easier that way.
Right.
And it takes a minute or two to kind of get it all incorporated, but we want to get it so it's basically like one sticky ball.
Right. My problem when I make dough, I've mainly just made like sandwich bread and focaccia, but it's like too sticky.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like we're going to have that problem with this one right here.
You basically want to like almost like squeeze it together with your hands and like mash it all together like that.
Okay. Whoops, I'm making a mess.
And that's our deep dish dough ball.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect.
No, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
Because you'll see with what we're gonna make when we actually make our partially baked crust.
Yep.
That we're gonna flatten this out in the pan anyways, and form it into our deep dish.
All right, so we have the next step here. We assume that the dough rose.
Yeah.
And what are we doing now?
So now we're making our partially baked crust, because if this was being made in Chicago like they do at the original Uno's, it would take over an hour in the oven. And we all know people don't like to wait that long for food here in Bangor.
That's crazy. I did not know that was what it took. Okay.
So now we're gonna do our partially baked. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure the dough is loose in the bottom of the pan.
Okay.
And we're gonna press down softly in the middle to push the dough out to the edge of the pans.
Oh, wow.
Almost making like a little curb around the edge of the pan with the dough. Like you're doing it perfect right now with the way you're doing with the hands.
I was worried I was doing it too much and I'm making it too shallow in the middle.
And once you do that, once you get out to the edges, we're just gonna use our fingers and pinch the bottom of the dough up the sides of the pan. It doesn't need to be perfect right up to the brim of the pan either.
Okay.
Just needs to have a nice form like that.
So we have these that have been pre-cooked in the oven, and now it's time for sauce and toppings.
Sauce and toppings. And if you know anything about deep dish pizza, you know our pizzas are built a little bit backwards.
Okay.
So you see most pizzas, it's sauce, cheese, toppings.
Yep.
Our numero uno deep dish, which is one of our best sellers, is completely backwards. Pepperoni goes down first. We're making our numero uno. So pepperoni goes down, and then we got put all the sausage down, make it we're spreading all of the crust. And it doesn't need to be perfectly spread because it's gonna bake in the oven anyway. So we're gonna add our onions next.
Right.
We're gonna add our peppers next after that. So the last step, as you can see, we put our toppings down first. Our last step, or second to last step, is we're gonna add our cheese. Then it gets 3 ounces of our house-made chunky tomato sauce. So
beautiful.
A little heaping scoop like that is usually the perfect amount.
Yep.
And our last ingredient, if you can grab that for me, is that middle shaker. Is our 80-20, which is 80% Romano cheese and 20% oregano. A little bit of our secret ingredient that goes on there. This one cooks in 12 minutes in our oven.
Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate it.
Of course. So on Saturday, people have to register in advance?
Yep, they can register in advance by going to eventbrite.com, or they can call the restaurant and pay right over the phone, and we'll have a spot ready for them on Saturday from 12 to 2.
That looked really good. The pizza making class is open for people ages 5 and up as well. So get out there and make your own pizza. Boy, that looks good. I want some pizza for breakfast now. When we come back, that full 5-day weather forecast. Don't go away.
At Ellsworth IV Infusion and Wellness, we are here to help you look and feel your best, inside and out. Jumpstart your health journey with medical weight loss and rejuvenate your wellness with nutritional IV infusions. Renew your skin with facials or relax with soothing massage therapy.
You live in vacation land, right? Then get out and vacation, why don't you? And do it in style by renting an RV from Maine Campo Rentals. Fully furnished, fully insured, ready to roll out and explore. Or maybe you have relatives visiting you. Save your marriage, save the hotel expense, put them up in an affordable RV from Maine Campo Rentals. We'll deliver to Acadia and local campgrounds too. Call or visit online at MaineCampoRentals.com. Put away that cell phone and discover vacation land with Maine Campo Rentals in Brewer.
I have prepared a Thomas's breakfast for you to savor together.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, are English muffins from England?
Heavens no. They're from the pantry.
Are you from England?
Nay, I am also from the pantry. Huzzah! A toast to breakfast.
When Patriot Waste Disposal wants to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Patriot Waste Disposal provides dumpster rental services to eastern and central Maine. Whether you're looking to do a little spring cleaning or are tackling a commercial project, Patriot Waste Disposal has you covered.
It's a full weekend of football on Fox and FS1.
This is what makes it exciting.
It starts with Fox UFL Friday.
Wow. Touchdown!
As the Birmingham Stallions battle the Michigan Panthers. Then, Sunday on FS1, the San Antonio Brahmas.
That's incredible.
Take on the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Outstanding catch.
The United Football League, this weekend on Fox and FS1.
At Ellsworth IV Infusion and Wellness, we are here to help you look and feel your best, inside and out. Jumpstart your health journey with medical weight loss and rejuvenate your wellness with nutritional IV infusions. Renew your skin with facials or relax with soothing massage therapy.
With April marking Autism Awareness Month, there's a number of ways the public can learn more about the developmental disability and how best to support those diagnosed with it. Fox News' Sean Langiel takes a closer look at how to promote better understandings about autism as educational experts analyze ways to break down the damaging stereotypes.
April marks Autism Awareness Month, a time advocates say is meant to encourage acceptance of people on the autism spectrum and educate the public on how to support those diagnosed with a developmental disability. According to the latest CDC data, roughly 1 in 36 kids have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and more than 5.4 million adults in the U.S. are estimated to have it. But while people with autism may have trouble with social communication and different ways of learning, moving, and paying attention, Dr. Megan Carpenter of Clemson University says it's critical to break down several misconceptions.
We might overgeneralize that everyone with autism has these super academic abilities and no social interaction ability. And we might meet someone who needs significant communication support, and we assume that all individuals with autism are not going to communicate their wants, needs, ideas, and feelings.
In school settings, Dr. Carpenter says students without autism can help their classmates navigate certain situations.
If we think about what happens in a typical cafeteria in any grade level, it's much more socially acceptable to have your friend prompt you to communicate or prompt you to ask for the correct lunch option that you want, as opposed to an adult or paraprofessional or teacher kind of following you around.
But while some people with autism require more assistance than others, Dr. Carpenter says,
we know with the right support, people with autism can be very successful in what they choose to do with their lives. So really, I think it's that big misconception that they're not the ultimate change agents in their life, and they should be.
Sean Langiel, Fox News.
And coming up a little later in the program, we'll hear how some local auto garages are helping those who are living with autism as well. You can also join that effort. Well, the weekend is finally upon us. It looks like we'll have some nice weather today as we head through the weekend. We'll see some sunshine today. Probably has a lot of people itching to get back out into their gardens. It's still a little too wet for that, but it is a perfect time of year to get ready. A lot of people now are starting their seeds for the summer gardening season. Late March, heading into early April, a perfect time for that. You could set up maybe a box in your window or something like that. Before you know it, you'll have some seedlings growing in your house, and you can plant them once things dry out a little bit more. And by the way, if you're ever looking for advice, some great advice on gardening here in Maine, you can check in with the folks over at the UMaine Cooperative Extension Program. They have so much experience with gardening, and they can tell you exactly what to do. They do everything from soil tests to just give you basic advice on how to get the most out of your garden this season. It won't be long now, but you'll be back in, and your fingers will be in the dirt. It's just a great thing to do. For more of what we can expect on the forecast, let's turn things back over to Devin Biggs.
Alrighty, Craig, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Northwoods Hearing Aid Center in Lincoln, Maine, providing quality hearing care while accepting most Medicare Advantage plans and private pay. Contact them today to schedule your free hearing test. Alrighty, small crowd advisories remain posted until about the noon time frame today, as we're watching for some active surf along the coast, and so far it's still rather active out there at around 4 feet, according to the buoys. Anywhere you see these lighter colors indicating some higher surf. Farther out towards sea, around 8 to 9 feet being reported out there this morning. Meanwhile, some areas waking up to a little bit of dense fog this morning, pretty much from Millinocket to sometimes Bangor and further off towards the south and west. We'll see that fog tapering off later on today. On land, just some clouds developing, maybe a few rain showers earlier during the period, but overall we're looking pretty quiet as we head towards the morning period today. Zooming things out, there's that cold front right there that's stretching all the way down toward the south into parts of Texas and tracking towards the north and east. Places like parts of Kentucky and even farther off to the north and east and south and west of that, dealing with some showers and thunderstorms this morning, kind of moving over the same area. So some flooding concerns are definitely existing. But for us, not looking too bad. Some sprinkles, maybe a few flurries in a few spots today. Coming up tonight, we clear out for a while overall with a partly cloudy sky. As we head towards your Saturday, some more clouds begin to move in with another system that begins to approach as we head towards Saturday evening, possibly starting as a little bit of rain and snow, switching over to a wintry mix for a bit, and eventually over to all rain as temperatures begin to rise. So here's what this looks like. Maybe a little bit of rain and snow early. There's that wintry mix of rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. Thankfully not lasting long. Maybe some more rain than anything else as we head towards early Sunday morning with more warm air moving in. This whole thing continues through Sunday as normal rainfall, but then by Sunday evening overall, we will see this beginning to clear up, and even by your Monday, clouds break up to reveal a lot more sunshine. Overall for today, we have lower 50s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles and a few flurries can't be ruled out, and the northwest wind getting up to around 30 miles per hour. Tonight, upper 20s, partly cloudy and breezy, northwest wind getting up to around 20 miles per hour. Tomorrow, it's Saturday, middle 40s, rain and snow showers possible late with that south wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Alrighty, let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Northwoods Hearing Aid Center in Lincoln, Maine, showing some rain showers on Sunday with highs in the low 50s, partly cloudy Monday with highs in the upper 40s and lower 40s then for your Tuesday under a mostly cloudy sky.
Dreaming of a new garage or custom build? Patriot Landscaping and Construction delivers from frame to finish. Expert craftsmanship, durable designs, and quality you can trust, we get it done right. Call Patriot Landscaping and Construction today. Let's build your future together.
My sister had multiple falls and broke her leg in the nursing home. She was out of her room and unsupervised. How did that happen?
If a serious injury has happened at a nursing home that's brought up cause for concern, call the 2s right now.
Our attorney at Lowry & Associates helped me get answers. He made sure the nursing home paid for what happened to my sister.
If you suspect nursing home abuse or neglect, we're your go-to lawyers.
Fixing your car's air conditioning shouldn't be like searching for buried treasure. RockAuto.com has complete air conditioning kits with everything you need at reliably low prices.
All the parts your car will ever need, Rock Auto.
The Lucerne Inn and Ryan's Pub is world-renowned for beautiful dining with a delicious view. Come and enjoy the experience of their all-you-can-eat seafood dinner every Friday night, now through April, with award-winning seafood dishes and discounts for seniors and veterans. Call to make your reservation or order for takeout. Treat your taste buds with the flavors of the sea during Seafood Fridays, only at the Lucerne Inn. Beautiful dining with a delicious view.
TurboTax Free Edition. 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition.
Dreaming of a new garage or custom build? Patriot Landscaping and Construction delivers from frame to finish. Expert craftsmanship, durable designs, and quality you can trust, we get it done right. Call Patriot Landscaping and Construction today. Let's build your future together.
Auto businesses around Maine are raising awareness about autism. Throughout the month of April, the Mid-Coast Business Development Group and Coastal Auto Parts Napa stores will be posting flyers, sharing information, and also seeking donations from customers as part of their Autos for Autism event. Over the past 3 years, Autos for Autism has raised over $22,000 for the group, known as Maine Access to Inclusive Education Resources. This year, though, the donations will go to the Autism Society of Maine. For a full list of participating locations, you can find this story on our website at foxbangor.com. And finally, Walt Disney World guests will have plenty of options this summer. For the first time in 6 years, Disney's water parks, Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, will be open at the very same time. Both parks will be open between May 21st and September 7th. The parks are located in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. Guests ages 10 or older can secure a ticket to either park for $74, while for children's ages 3 to 9, it will cost them $68 a piece. What a good time there, though. All right, and that'll do it for this hour. We thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back here on Monday with all the latest news. We hope to see you then. In the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful day.
Today on 25 Words or Less, he had more money at 12 years old than any of us will ever see in our lifetimes. It's Jaleel White. And joining Jaleel, our boyfriend